The microphone works. Welcome everybody. My name is Tony Poole, the business manager of the St. Paul Steamfitters Pipefitters Local 455. We're super excited to have you all here to talk about geothermal exchange systems. Our system in particular that we've installed in this building, we're excited about it, and we're happy to have everybody. We're happy to have the mayor, Melvin Carter, in the building, and I'd like to turn it over to him.
Thank you all for coming here today. This is a really exciting event, and it feels like a real milestone in the work that we're doing. I'm Melvin Carter, I'm the mayor of St. Paul. I show up on occasion in DC or other places around the country to talk about climate, and people always look at me like, what are you doing? Midwest mayor talking about climate? You're not from the coast. And even in the Twin Cities, when we talk about climate, you know, I think we sort of have a tendency sometimes to talk about these types of topics from something of an abstract lens. But here we are. If you've lived through this past winter, you know that our climate is changing. If you've driven on a street, you know that our climate is changing. If you've been around our river, you know that our climate, the changing climate that we're experiencing is impacting us. It's not that we're preparing for climate change. It's not that we're preparing for climate crisis. It's that we're living it right now. Right here in St. Paul, right here in Minnesota, we're living it. And it seems like every other Thursday I open up CNN.com and see some brand new report that tells us that all the calamities that we thought were further off are just a little bit closer than we thought they were last week. And so we are, the level of urgency, the level of crisis, the level of right nowism that has to be involved in this work could never be higher. Our ability to do this in a way that taps, I've been working on this ready for a long time, ready? An unlimited well of energy. Thank you, thank you, thank you. An endless well of energy underneath our feet is really incredible. The opportunity to source geothermal, ground source energy is really incredible. The work here, but then the opportunity to expand this work. And I see our partners at the county. Have to say thank you, Chairman Cecile, great to see you. Lynn Becker, great to see you here. Thank you for your work. We're in super close partnership with our county. Certainly Councilmember Yang, it's great to see you here. Thank you for being here, Councilmember Nelsie Yang as well. Because we have to do this work in partnership. And so we're excited to see the work that you all have done. We're excited to be in this space. We're really appreciative of all the work of all the panelists that they'll be talking about today. And one of our critical things is trying to be the change. And so, I'm sure Russ will probably get around to sharing with you that we are excited to move forward with ground source energy at Como Zoo right now. We're excited to move forward with ground source energy at the Heights, our new development. And we're excited to continue to explore the opportunities that exist for geothermal and ground source energy across our city as we continue to celebrate our independence from the fossil gases that we've been addicted to for so long. So thank you for being here. Thank you for your leadership. And it gives us an opportunity, of course, to put folks to work. Nobody has been better at workforce development and apprenticeships and bringing new people into the trades than our trades. And so it's an exciting opportunity to knock out a whole bunch of things at once. So thank you as well. Thanks to everybody who helped put this together. And I'm looking forward to a great panel.
Thank you, Mayor Carter, for those wonderful remarks. Right before I turn the microphone over, I just wanted to say one thing. Currently we use wind for our turbines. We're using the sun for the solar panels. The future of heating and cooling is right in the ground below our feet. So anybody can use that one if you want to. Next up, I'd like to introduce our panel moderator, Nina Axelson, the founder and president of Grid Catalyst, a Minnesota Clean Energy Accelerator. She has 17 years of experience in the energy and utility sectors, including working on geothermal and geo-exchange systems. Nina, there you go.
Thank you. What a great welcome, and a very short summary of all the big things happening in this building and in the workforce being trained in this building. So thank you for setting the stage for that. Thank you to Mayor Carter and everybody who put this event together for getting us here today. For those who don't know me, and if you had skimmed over the bio, I've been a renewable thermal nerd for a really long time and sat in a lot of rooms saying, we also need to think about how we heat and cool buildings differently. And it's so exciting now, and everybody else wants to talk about it too. So we finally hit the moment that, that there's a little bit more critical mass for that. So I'm really excited about that. We have an incredible panel today, a lot of amazing folks. So I'm trying not to take up a lot of space, but I do want to do just a little bit of context setting, and then I'm going to hand it over to our panelists to introduce themselves. So we're all here because we want to talk about these alternatives, right? We're talking about ground source, we're talking about geothermal energy systems. More broadly, we can talk about the term geo-exchange. We're talking about moving heat, right? Moving heat as a more effective way to cool and heat in the end of the day, as we're talking about systems. This can be up to 8 times more energy efficient than natural gas systems. These systems work particularly well in cold climates, so that's another thing we're always trying to get over that challenge. Because of that constant temperature of the earth, this is a really great way for us to think about more extremes happening at both sides of the winter and the summer. That efficiency is not only good for as we're looking at how do we have a beneficial electrification and better buildings, but also reducing the costs that come with this. So really great hearing during the tour earlier that this is actually a cost savings measure for folks as well. So if you didn't come into the room already sold on this, we're gonna make sure that you leave. So we're trying to get you a head start here. So in being able to lower energy bills, have cleaner air, a reliable service with the ground source and geothermal systems, is also about a just energy transition, not just in Minnesota, but globally, right? These alternatives really carry that for us. And so as we're thinking about not just how we do that well in this building, but in the under-resourced and underrepresented communities that we all should be representing and considering as we're transitioning energy systems here. So that also comes with a labor transition, so I'm thrilled that that's who we have folks speaking to that today. We must invest in innovative energy infrastructure projects to demonstrate the climate, energy, workforce, and public health benefits. And also, we can talk a little bit about district systems. You know, I've got a special place in my heart for those. This investment now has to meet the critical moment of climate change and the critical moment of investments being made in the energy system transition. We can't push this out 2 years. We can't push it out even 18 months is when I start to get worried about it. So I just really hope we're all using some of this shared framing for today's conversation. With that, I'm gonna, I don't know what our mic, we got one down there, one down here. So I'm gonna go to the other side and have Russ give a brief introduction, and then we'll come back to Todd to talk a little bit more about our geosystems.
Thank you, Nina. It's great to be here, everybody. Russ Stark, I'm the Chief Resilience Officer working at Mayor Carter's office here in St. Paul, where I work on climate action and sustainability. Look forward to the conversation.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Pipefitters. Jeremy McConkey, Training Director, St. Paul Pipefitters. Extremely passionate about the next generation that's going to replace us and getting those students and apprentices up to speed and the best trained pipefitters that the country knows.
Todd Metelsky with Horowitz, pre-construction manager, licensed engineer in the state of Minnesota, focused on designing and building energy efficient systems for people like the pipefitters and everyone else in the state.
Is it on?
Yeah.
Okay. Sometimes I've been told I don't need a microphone. But my name is Rebecca Nelson, and I am from the District 5 Community Council, and I was also on the sustainability working group for the Heights. I keep wanting to call it the Hills because that's what was printed, but it's the Heights. So, thank you.
Hi folks, my name is Darielle Dannon, and I'm the Government Relations Director for one of our state agencies called the Department of Employment and Economic Development. So I'm going to speak about some of our work, and then of course we sit on the climate, not of course, you probably don't know this, I'm going to tell you that we sit on the climate change sub-cabinet as well. So I'll do a little speaking on behalf of the state as well.
Thanks, Darielle. We're going to hand it back over to Todd just to walk us through a high-level overview of geothermal and geo-exchange technologies. Why do they work so well in Minnesota?
I'll try to answer that the best I can. We talked about how these are great for cold climates. So you hear a lot of people talk about ground source or water source, and you also hear air source. Well, the problem with air source in Minnesota, it's hard to get heat out of air that's already 20 below zero. There's not really much heat there. So again, going back to all the energy that's available below our feet, ground source, any type of ground source geo exchange, whether that be with a traditional geothermal system or the Darcy Solutions geothermal exchanging it with the aquifer, it is an energy source that's stable year-round for us to be able to capture that energy and do heating, cooling in buildings, and also provide a more efficient system than your air source. Just in terms of large numbers, I'll just throw out there. In air source, you're going to be running about 1.2 kilowatts to cool your house, roughly kilowatts per hour to cool your house on average, up to 3.6 kilowatts. This will reduce that probably down to less than, you'd be at 0.3 to 0.6 kilowatts. Okay, so a drastic reduction. It's a great option. Just here at this site at 455, reduced their cooling energy cost by 80% with this system compared to a traditional code compliant cooling system. So it's a great option here in Minnesota. And on top of that, we get these wonderful days like today. It's cold out, still hard to get heat out of that air. You're still gonna have some exterior zones in a building that need heat, but then we have a space like this where you need cooling. With the geo-exchange system, you can have different zones operating in different modes without impacting one another. In addition to that, you're also sharing that energy. So the heat you're putting into one space, you're actually sending the cold water back to another space to cool it. So it's a great way, just inside a building, you're moving energy. And anytime we're doing geo-exchange, and I talked about this on the tour, if we can do hydronic heating and cooling, a 3/4 inch pipe carries the same amount of energy as an 18 by 18 inch duct. So if you think about that in terms of efficiency and space, and I will tell you this, it is a lot more efficient to pump water than it is to try to move air. So for those reasons, Minnesota is a great candidate for geo-exchange technology, whether that be traditional or the Darcy system.
That was fantastic. Exactly what I think we needed just to set the stage for this. So now we kind of have a basis of what are we talking about. Now let's shift to why does it matter? So Russ, if you could start by talking a little bit from the perspective of the city of St. Paul, why does this technology and this solution matter for you all?
Yeah, thanks, Nina. I mean, the mayor really laid out the basic case that I would make, which is the urgency of the situation that we're in. At the city of St. Paul, we've got our climate goals in place for the last few years, which is we think we have to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions 50% by 2030 and down to net zero by 2050. Those are great goals. How do we get there, right? And also, we've committed to being net zero in city buildings and city operations by 2030, which is, again, a great goal. And until some of these technologies started to emerge in recent years, and until the Inflation Reduction Act came into place last year, it was much harder to see how we were going to get there, frankly. But so glad that we made those commitments without knowing how we were going to get there, because now the picture is becoming clearer. And these ground source and geothermal systems, I think, are a big part of that answer, particularly here in Minnesota. With the recent 100% renewable electricity commitment at the state level, we now are in an even better position to start transitioning everything to being powered ultimately partly by electricity, by clean electricity, right? And that includes geosystems like these. Some people talk about electrifying everything. I fall just a little bit short of everything. I still like using my feet to walk down the street, but I do need some carbohydrates here and there. But anyway, this part of this will happen building by building, and we're doing that, and the mayor mentioned a couple of those. We actually have a traditional geothermal system out at the Arlington Hills Community Center that's been in place for almost a decade. We just broke ground on the new North End Community Center on Rice Street, right next to the Rice Street Library. It's going to have a geothermal system. We're partnering with the folks at Lower Phelan Creek Project on the Walk-On Teepee Center at Bruce Bento Nature Sanctuary. That's going to use geothermal. And thanks in part to our federal delegation, we just got a nice federal grant to move forward with a Darcy solution system at the Primates building at Como Zoo. And that's definitely just the first building and what will be a transformation of that campus over time. So we're really excited about those opportunities. The city of St. Paul is also, though, a city of campuses, if you think about it. We are a city of colleges and hospitals and government campuses, and those types of clusters of buildings are the perfect places for this type of technology to be used. And so I think we probably have even more potential for these kinds of systems, especially at the district level, than most places. And so we hope to be ground zero for this transformation and using this technology in a way that we haven't seen before. Again, super efficient technology that is going to do a big part of the job of decarbonization here in Minnesota, along with those other solutions. I mean, air source is part of the solution here, and more. Just to be upfront, and you all probably realize this, these systems can cost more upfront, and compared to a traditional gas boiler furnace system. We heard on the tour that in this case, with the relative to a traditional chiller, costs are relatively comparable in the cooling of this building. But with the IRA tax credit, which now is also accessible to non-tax-paying entities like cities through a direct payment from the Treasury, that cost equation is going to look very different. Not to mention that even if these systems do cost a bit more upfront, we have to always compare that to the cost of not doing it. And at this point, the cost of inaction is just staggering. And so we look forward to being a big part of that kind of leading edge of solutions and to the rest of the conversation. Thanks.
Thanks, Ross. We're going to turn to another great example that's in the planning stage and have Rebecca talk a little bit about the heights.
The heights.
And anything else you'd like to share about what matters for you in this conversation?
Sure, of course. For the community itself, of course, sustainability and net zero are key words. And being on the sustainability work group for the heights, there were a lot of things that we had to concentrate on and make sure that we provided for the future and talked about, made sure that all these different energy sources were being utilized. And geothermal is definitely one that I'm excited to be able to talk about and to share with other people. So for my Payne-Phelan district, we are in the middle of creating a district plan. So it ties in very nicely to be able to, once we're done with that, we can send it on to the city and go from there.
Yeah, that's great.
Just to note that, in the proposed system for the heights, similar again for those who don't know about district energy systems. Sorry for those who know me, you knew this plug was coming. This is about the efficiencies you gain by having the thermal systems connected between buildings. So you're rejecting heat out of a building that can be used in an adjacent building through that piping system. And especially when it comes to geo-exchange, that's where you're going to get both an extra efficiency as well as a cost savings, and where it enables some technologies that you maybe otherwise couldn't. So great examples from both of you as it relates to that. I'm going to shift to Ariel and have her talk a little bit about the state's perspective.
All right, thank you. Appreciate that. So many similar things to what Russ was talking about. Obviously, we're really excited about the 2040 new clean electricity goal for the state of Minnesota. My agency, as I said, we sit on the climate change subcabinet, and the point of the subcabinet is to really unite the efforts across agencies towards common goals. And it's partially to meet that 2040 goal, but it's partially, of course, also to just get our state ready and prepared for responding to climate change and also preventing climate change to the point that we can. And so in that effort, we've set out, of course I'm going to plug my legislative, I was like, I'm going to plug them now. Okay, great. Glad you're ready. So I'm going to plug some of mine, and then I'm going to share with you just a little bit about what one of my partner agencies is working on too. But you all hopefully had as exciting of a week as I did. We got something called targets this week, which I'm very jazzed about, because we got a pretty exciting target around pulling down federal dollars. So Russ explained the IRA funds, and we are at the state of Minnesota are really keen on in Minnesota making sure that our big goal is actually to build a clean energy economy here. And for Minnesota, we think we have the potential to be kind of like we are with MedTech, where we're sort of known nationally and internationally as being that epicenter where people kind of are innovating in medical technology. But we think we have the potential to do that around clean energy technology as well. And so the state has, in their targets, put $500 million of state funds in a sort of special, look at the chart, it's all bracketed and everything too. But those dollars are intended to be state match for pulling down federal funds to make the state competitive in that space. So this, yeah, right? So I had a very good week. I'm so happy to be here in front of this group because hopefully, I mean, there's still obviously a lot to do. Just because you get a target doesn't mean it's happened. But that's a big thing that we're working on to kind of further that end. I am just gonna talk a little bit about, we're also working in the space of workforce. There is some workforce relationships there, and that's pulling down IRA funds as well as chip manufacturing funds, so very closely related. I think we're certainly seeing those items as building on each other, but we're also thinking about workforce, and there's workforce funding in the CHIPS money as well, but there's also some state investments that we're proposing specifically around, we're calling something a Drive for 5. So we've identified this space, the folks, and actually youth as well as adults, we've identified this space as a place where there is job demand for the next 10 years and high wages. And so the state of Minnesota is really interested, my agency, but actually all the agencies working in training folks, so K-12, higher education, and otherwise, really focusing our efforts on getting folks trained in those high demand, high wage occupations, and the trades, as well as sort of this manufacturing, some similar technology as well. We've identified those as being that. So this, I mean, you all, I'm looking around because I'm like, you all know this, but we need lots of humans to learn how to do the things that we've done in this building, more humans than we've ever had before. So we are doubling down on those efforts, and we've also got some requests for a little over $100 million at my agencies that would do that. And then I'm gonna stop in a second, but I am gonna plug I know. She's like, I gave a woman a microphone, she's just gonna keep talking. No, I'm just kidding. But I do have a sister agency, Department of Commerce, that also has a similar request for funding. They've got $115 million in something called a competitiveness fund, and that would also very similarly pull down some energy-specific funds from those federal dollars as well. So we're really excited about all of these opportunities at the state level. We think that, I mean, you all know we have this amazing opportunity. We have a surplus probably like at the golden time, so hopefully we're going to orient some of those dollars towards maximizing these federal resources and, like I said, building that clean energy economy so that we can, in what, 5-10 years, we can say Minnesota is like the North Star of clean energy technology. That's my hope here. So that's what we're doing at the state. And I'm going to give you back your microphone now.
That was awesome. That was great. I would never take a mic from you. I think it's never too early, you know, for Pete Wyckoff to start getting shout outs in the rooms he's in back here in Minnesota, because I think that's going to tie in as we make big changes at the Department of Commerce too. So. Jeremy, it seems like you got a good setup there to talk about the human opportunities here with training. Can you carry that on from Dariel to talk about why this matters for you all?
Absolutely.
Thanks.
You know, pipe fitters, a lot of people, when I go out to schools and when I go to St. Paul schools and ask the kids if they know what a pipe fitter does, a lot of them have no idea what a pipe fitter does. And I have to explain it to them. And I try to do it in a way that shows how much excitement I have, how much how much passion I have for the trade, how much passion our members have for the trade. But what really gets them is the money that they usually, yeah, right.
This panel's keeping it real.
When you turn out from our program, the majority of our members, if they decide to go after it or just work 40 hours a week, they're gonna make $100,000 a year, plus amazing benefits. Excellent retirement. A lot of our members retire. They will have as much money retired as they do while they're working. That's how good our pension is. That's how good our wage package is. So this really, really is amazing. For me, it's really about the work that I love, the passion that I have for it. And when I was going through that, I realized I loved the apprentices that we're going through and getting them up to the same level that I was. We have two main programs within the pipe fitters. We have the installation side. We install the heating, air conditioning. We do all of the piping for the refinery, for all kinds of stuff, the nuclear plants, all of that. And then we install the heating, air conditioning, and then we also have the other group that services all the equipment. So when something breaks, our members go out there and fix it. So we have two specific groups there. One really awesome thing about this high energy, high efficiency equipment, on the installation side, our members already know how to do this. For us, it is simple. We are already training on it. They already know how to do this. It fits in. We are ready to do this. We already have the members ready to go out and install this. We want to install this. On the other group, we have the service side. They have to learn the latest and greatest technology that's out there. With all of this high efficiency equipment comes a new technology with it, and it's harder. What's amazing about us, we already have those partnerships with the manufacturers. We have members out there already fixing it and improving it to make it better. So for us, it's a natural fit. We're excited about all of this. The money is there. The young people coming into the trades, the next working force, they want to be part of this energy movement. We're excited to have them. They're excited. We use it as outreach. We're extremely passionate about this. We're ready to make it happen. We just need all the end users to go out there and get these systems in and make it and go. So we're super excited. Thanks for hearing me out.
I feel like
If you walked into any room and gave that exact set of commentary, just all the clipboards would be full, right? And it's because of Breeze clipboards. I'm thinking of that instead of QR codes or whatever other digital version, but that's wonderful to hear that. Todd, coming back to you, let's talk about that from your perspective of your company, what you're seeing in your business.
So to build on what Jeremy was talking about, I mean, we employ lots of different tradespeople, not just pipe fitters, but tinners, plumbers, electricians, controls technicians, all the like, along with service technicians. So with all that being said, this type of system, it's clean energy, it's putting all those people to work. They're building energy efficient systems right here in Minnesota, and it's all work that we're doing. And with that, we can spread it not just in St. Paul, but Minneapolis, and we can go out and continue this beyond just St. Paul. In addition to this, we're seeing this from some of our corporate clients with goals that are very aggressive. And without this type of geo-exchange technology, getting to 100% renewable energy by 2030, or whatever their goals may be, without a geo-exchange system, there's not a way to get there, especially for, we talked about medtech, and that's a huge industry, and we do a lot of work with different medtech clients and chip clients. And those spaces have tight tolerances, tight controls. These type of systems lend themselves well to maintaining those environmental conditions to optimize that manufacturing process and keep them online and up in production. Because that's the other thing. If something fails and they go down, they're losing millions of dollars a day, which is millions of dollars a day for the state and the local municipalities and everything. So it's huge that we embrace this geotechnology and start implementing it across more broad aspects. And we are seeing it on, I would say 80% of our projects that we're looking at are looking at some type of geo-exchange system and what those alternates look like.
I didn't know that number, and I'm really glad you shared it, because one of the things we talked about planning for this conversation today is that people still think this is something that's like 10 years out, versus it's happening today, it's in these projects, and not just, everybody's gonna have a building or two, but 80% that's a big number that I'm gonna guess is gonna stick with folks today, so.
Yeah, that 80%, and that's just people wanting to understand what the options are,
Yeah.
right? And not all of them are gonna go with it, but at least they're all talking about it now.
Yeah.
That's a drastic change in the last 5 years from what we'd see before. It used to be and they'll use apartment buildings, they would just go with the lowest first cost and put in a magic pack system. Well, now with energy codes and all that changing, we're seeing developers actually want to start looking at district type systems and how do you look at different applications. We're looking at a project right now that is looking at the Living Building Challenge. I don't know how many of you guys are familiar with that, but that is another step up above LEED in my opinion. And so that's an apartment residential type complex that is looking at a geo-exchange system. So we're seeing a shift.
Yeah, that's great. Todd, don't let that mic go too far. We're going to come back to you in a moment as we shift to talk about a little bit more of the district systems and kind of community-based development. So we're going to go back to Rebecca here to maybe just give a little bit more background on the Heights project and what's being discussed there.
Let me think. A lot of the things that we talked about as far as the Heights for sustainability were contracting with the businesses that were coming in, the light industrial, and how we were going to use solar panels, and the wastewater management system was going to be using the groundwater, and or what's it called, gray water? Okay, thank you.
Wastewater energy recovery.
Okay, thank you.
One team, good job.
Phew. And then how we were using native plants as opposed to, bringing in other different kinds of plants, but using the native plants that are native to Minnesota and things like that. So,
How many buildings are planned for the site?
and I just read
Maybe
this
Rusty
last
might know.
It'll be a combination of light industrial and residential, and the sort of unit totals are 1,000 jobs and 1,000 housing units as back of the envelope. So a handful of quite large buildings are anticipated on the light industrial side, and then a variety of housing building types.
So just to give another example of an on-the-horizon project that's coming. Todd, anything else you'd add on the district system example?
For a district system, it's, you talk about 1,000 jobs and 1,000 housing units, right? And you've got these commercial buildings and residential buildings. If you looked at putting that on a district system, now I can share energy. The house may be in heating mode, but that commercial space might be in cooling. So now instead of doing any type of really compressor and using any type of energy, I can actually just share that load and move that energy from one side to the other. So that's something that you don't really get to see if you're doing just a housing project or just a commercial project. You don't get as much sharing. When you can tie this into a larger system, you're going to get a lot more energy sharing between the different users than what you would in a traditional standalone system. On top of that, you go around, you'll drive around, you'll see cooling towers sitting outside, and you'll see these big plumes of water being evaporated in the middle of winter from plants. This eliminates that make-up water use and that evaporation. So again, clean energy, the geo-exchange really makes a difference in how that works. And doing it at a district level, all you're going to do is economies of scale. The cost, right, to drill a well is the cost to drill a well. If I can do one larger well and serve multiple facilities versus doing 5 individual wells, that cost is going to be drastically different.
That's great, very helpful. Daryl may be surprised, but I'm going to give the mic back to her. So, this is all really exciting, and again, we're starting to get the fact that we're not talking about a little project here and a little project here. We're talking about an enormous amount of potential of a scaled solution. So, how do we go faster, further? What are all the solutions you have for us? Here's the mic. Here's a catch.
We're expecting your love from me. No, I mean the real answer is that, and I'm not going to show the same things I did before. I mean, I think we really do think if we make state investments, like the big thing that's happening on the federal level, all of these investments, the IIJA, oh my God, that's so many acronyms, but there's sort of like the 3 investments in a row. What is it? Infrastructure Investment Act. I'm going to slightly make up their names. The CHIPS Act and then the IRA, right? I think that's the right names, yeah. And in some ways, they build on each other. But the federal government, essentially what it comes down to is the federal government is making these huge investments to pivot our workforce, to make investments in the kind of technologies and the innovation that we need to meet these climate goals. I mean, I'm hearing we have amazing innovation already, but I think there's a perception that maybe we're going to keep innovating. Not probably the cooling systems seem like they're amazing, so maybe they're ready, they're done. But on other things as well, EV technologies, battery storage, all of those good things. And so the federal government, I mean, what they're planning to do in the next 5 to 10 years, I mean, between 5 and 10 years is these massive investments. And so really the thing we think we need to do is create the state match, pull those investments down to Minnesota, and then a lot of what it's doing is it's incenting customers. So we talked about customer behavior, so it's making customers, incenting them to purchase EV vehicles, to purchase these cooling systems that previously had been more expensive. The intention on a lot of these things, like the chip manufacturing, for instance, is to make it as cheap, I guess, to manufacture those items here in the United States, and we want them to be here in Minnesota, as it would be to manufacture them elsewhere. And it's also the intention of a lot of these technologies and these investments is to make them more economically feasible, and also there's a lot of investments in R&D and then commercialization so that we can rapidly bring them to market. That's a lot of the intentions here. And then of course, you know, I'm gonna say workforce, right? We have to train the workforce. And I think I didn't mention before, but we also have some significant trainings at my agency and at Department of Labor and Industry in investing youth, so, right? So that we get youth thinking about coming into this space, getting those work experiences early, and then hopefully getting them into both pre-apprenticeship and then apprenticeship programs as well. Did I miss something? I feel like there's high expectations from the last time we had this microphone. Just checking in with you.
No.
All right, I'm gonna hand it back.
Stellar. It's great. I think one of the reasons that right now seems so difficult is because there is so much going on that it is easy to lose track or do the right things about everything. It's, you know, I'll be the 100th person to make the reference right now. It's everything, everywhere, all at once, right? Sorry. But that's kind of where we are. So, I mean, I would say for Jeremy, you all have a focus on the workforce aspect of this, and you spoke to it a little bit earlier, but is there anything else you want to impress upon these folks or folks who might, you know, see this discussion later that they need to be considering about how we get the workforce ready for what's coming?
Absolutely. So we work with schools. I've mentioned earlier on our tour that we did. We're working with DCTC and St. Paul Public Schools to get the students from St. Paul actually working within our program. We're going to set up the first PSEO program, so they'll actually have the first in the state where they actually can get some heating, air conditioning, college credits while they're going through school. So we can get those students interested in this program while they're still in high school, and they can use that to jump right into some of these trades that absolutely need these people right now, to replace all the retirees and to help build all the stuff that's coming. So we're super excited about that. We still need, it still feels like sometimes the trades get overlooked. When we walk into buildings, sometimes people look down on us, but we're changing that. But we still need people to be excited about that, and we need to promote that and keep promoting that. So anybody that has any chance to go out there and tell somebody young to join the trades, make sure you do that. Make sure you, if you want to come down and take a tour, let them know. We give tours multiple times a week to young people, to parents, to whoever we can, to brag about it and talk about what we do and tell them how proud we are. So we need the young people to be engaged and want to do these jobs, and we're excited about that. We're going to show them how to do that. We also work with the United Association, and they have a lot of technology into this as well. So they have a lot of district energy stuff that they're working on and working with different groups. We're building a trailer. I'm actually on a project to help build a district energy trailer with the United Association that's going to showcase a lot of this technology that they're doing. So it'll showcase a mini district system, and we're excited about that too. Hopefully that ends up here and we can showcase that and show that off as well. But all kinds of other things, we just really want to have the best trained people we can and get as many people interested as we can. And we need those people, so.
You had me at district energy trailer.
Right.
That's gonna be my highlight of the day. No, that's really wonderful, and I do appreciate this. We all can play a role in narrative change and the way that we talk about the jobs and the way that we show respect and opportunity to folks, that these are really incredible, valuable jobs, and so we all have a responsibility to that. So anybody else? Russ, you have the mic there, you want to chime in?
Yeah, thanks, Nina. I focused my earlier comments mostly on the climate side of the equation. If the mayor was here, he'd be talking about his definition of equity, which if any of you have heard him talk about it, it's about ownership. And what's really amazing about this opportunity, both here and elsewhere, but particularly here, is that this is really labor-intensive work. there's a lot of work that we have to do, literally building by building across our whole community to make this transformation work. It's gonna be a lot of work for a long time. This work can't be outsourced. It's gotta be done here. And so I think there's a huge opportunity, not only for the trades, but for our residents to take advantage of these new jobs that are being created. We're doing a lot of partnership with the folks at the county and others to really kind of build an ecosystem of programs that will help people get into these opportunities moving forward. And I'm really excited about that piece as well.
Thanks, Russ. We're coming to the end of our questions here, and I know I've been a little prescriptive with everybody, so I just want to open it up and say, has anything come up for any of the panelists that you've been wanting to build on a point, whether it's on jobs or district systems or the technology, district energy trailers, whatever you feel like talking about? Anything else just for the group? Otherwise, I can run to the next question.
I could talk all day, but.
We have a great panel of folks for that, I think. I do want to just go back to, like, is there a project for anybody that you maybe mentioned in passing, but you're really excited about and you maybe want to offer a little bit more detail? I want to make sure that folks leave with a really tangible idea of what this is, especially if you didn't get a chance to go on the tour. And Todd, I might be already looking at you, but anybody can take that one.
No, we've done a couple of the Darcy systems. We've got a couple more in the books right now under contract. But we've been doing these systems and we've been talking about it. I'm putting a budget on one right now that's it's actually a high-rise office building. So drastically different, right? We're in an office building / classroom environment in this building. We talked about district energy systems for residential, touched base on the apartment building, but I'm also looking at a high-rise residential building, not in St. Paul, unfortunately, but it's still, we're seeing this paradigm shift with everyone, especially with the funds that are available with the IRA and all the grants and stuff. We're seeing a drastic shift in the market. And also, this is something that we're able to bring this to market faster than a traditional system because of the lead time on equipment and certain components. These systems have components that are more readily available and aren't as customized.
I guess I'm going to take over, keep talking a little bit. Any new technology that we can possibly get, we do. We're in the process of working on a CO2 system, and again, the lead time is hurting us. But CO2 is the next phase in clean refrigeration, somewhat clean refrigeration, I guess. Definitely a lot better than traditional refrigeration. So we're going to install that system here in our building, and we're going to train our members how to do that, operate that safe. Heat pumps, air-to-air heat pumps, water-to-water heat pumps, any type of heat pump we can train on. Even our water heater is going to be a heat pump. So obviously anything we can focus on this new technology, we're going to focus on it. We're going to train on it. We'll have the best training possible on all of that stuff. So our members are the most qualified to work on this stuff. So we're excited about all of that as well.
So I'm going to round up a question from here, and then if you folks have a question from the crowd, I'm happy to take that. In the call to action, so I've heard a few today about what folks can do, but we have wide representation of folks in different industries and responsibilities today. Who else do you need in this coalition of change to make things happen? So folks who are talking to young people and students, folks who are working on projects. Anybody else that we kind of want to say this, if you can walk away today with something to be actionable. Does anybody have anything that, this is where we use our minds, right?
Yeah, on top of what Jeremy talked to with all the tradespeople and getting people into that, it's not just that, it's also on the engineering side, right? You get kids who have a science background like that aspect, but pushing them into engineering, but also not just engineering, because engineering, I think of two different things, two different aspects to go down. You can build buildings and put together systems, or you can build the components that make up those systems. So pushing kids to get away from thinking of the bright shiny object and think about the bright shiny system that involves clean energy and what kind of impact that can have on climate and the overall environment versus what just building a component would be. So engineering is a big thing that we need to get, and the more focus we can get pushed on that into the trades, these systems will just continue to evolve and become more efficient, allowing options for more electric vehicles and more electrification and improving our decarbonization plan.
It took engineers, somebody to create the Darcy system, you know, I mean, they get credit for that. That's pretty amazing what they've done. So we need engineers as well as, you know, train people to install this and work on this stuff, so.
Yeah, and I'll give a plug, just given the, you know, our role I play in this little ecosystem is that there are a lot of folks in business and building management and other things that the more awareness we can build that these systems are reliable. And, you know, I'm not here to necessarily really sell you on the thing, but at least we're taking it under consideration, that we're widening our purview of what's possible, because we've spent too much time thinking there's only 5 ways to do something, and now technology has offered us something much broader. So I think that that's being in conversation with much more, not ruling out that they're not working directly on the thing we think they're working on, so we don't talk to them about it, versus they have a point of influence. Russ?
Yeah, I was just going to say, well, first of all, quickly on the project we're excited about. I mean, premature to say how much progress we're going to make, how quickly out at Como, but Cecilia in the office was just mentioning earlier, because we toured just before the panel on this building, and part of the story was just how relatively easy it was to actually do the install in terms of relatively small equipment could come in and dig a little space up and that sort of thing. And Cecilia was mentioning on our team, yeah, like it's going to be important for it to be quiet when we're literally trying to do this in a building full of monkeys. And I hadn't actually thought about that point, but it's a really important point, because we're literally going to be doing that soon. But to your other question, Nina, my kids are 25 and 21. And I feel like they grew up both in a household but also in a world where the reality of climate change sunk in a very different way than it did in my generation or previous generations, and even more so for the younger kids today. And there's so much pessimism about what's possible given all the news stories and everything that we're hearing. I just think that there's a huge opportunity for us to turn that strength of feeling that people have about this stuff into positive feeling. And Jeremy and others were mentioning that the younger folks who come in here are actually really excited about the green energy part of the story of what they're doing today. I've been saying for years to my friends in the trades, like, you guys are green jobs. That's how you got to talk about yourselves. And so I think that's, to me, that's kind of the big untapped opportunity, is to let our younger people know that the solutions are actually here, and they're now a lot more possible than even a few years ago.
Thanks, Russ.
Well, and I'm going to slightly build on that, Russ, and just say, because I work for Deed, and we work with a lot of businesses, that I find it really exciting, I guess, that we're hearing from tons of businesses that are so excited, because I keep going back to the federal funds, but what they do, what it is incenting, is that businesses can make the kind of investments that will lower their overhead and operating costs, and they can make that investment, they can sell it to a board, right? It is not prohibitively expensive on the front end. And I think a lot of these technologies is actually cheaper once you get it installed, right? But the front end, so transforming fleet transformations, and then things like this building. And actually, I started 2 years ago, we had a conversation about actually this building, weirdly, and now I'm sitting in it, and we at our agency wanted to incent a lot of that, but you know, we couldn't quite get it over the finish line. You know, we had a different legislature then, and so we were very excited to see the federal government was going to try to head us in the same direction. But yes, I am similarly finding it very, very exciting that we're getting sort of, I know businesses aren't always that exciting to talk about, but they certainly produce a lot of greenhouse gases. And so having them enthusiastic about making these transformations is probably really excellent for our planet. So I'm feeling very warm-hearted about that.
That's great. Thanks, everybody. I am going to turn it over. We've got a few minutes for questions from the crowd, and we'll try, and otherwise I'm sure, well, there's be easy enough to get in touch with these wonderful people afterward to continue your conversation. And if you can stand up and ask your question, and then I'll repeat it from the mic.
Okay. So I have a million questions, but let's start out with, in terms of being from a community who is wanting to access the monies or to understand what's there or what the process is, who do we talk to? Like, is there somebody that, and also we would like your contact information somehow, I don't know.
Wonderful question. So the question is, how do communities move forward on trying to access these funds and these opportunities that seem really big and audacious right now? So.
I like how big your eyes are looking at me. A lot of them are rolling out. So yeah, I was going to mention that and then decided not to. Sometimes how especially the federal funds happen is they very splashily pass a bill, right? And then it takes, especially IRA, it takes a year or more. So they've established an office, they're hiring staff, they're starting to roll some of these things out. So some of the tax credits will be available. I think they're available this year. Other folks might know, starting this year maybe. But some of it is taking a little bit to get ready. So like some of the EV purchasing and those other things are taking a little bit. And then some of you weren't asking about this, but some of like even the CHIPS, so the CHIPS bill passed actually between these two, right? It's older than the IRA. And that, they just released actually the first application for funding just got released. So some of this is like, actually, if we're super smart, we work on the workforce preparation, and we work on getting the state money ready so that as this stuff rolls out at the federal level, we're ready to get it. So that wasn't the greatest of answers, was it?
I think Russ is also going to.
Oh yeah, Russ probably has a better answer.
I was asking about the state. How do we find out what the state
We
has?
haven't passed any of it yet, so we need to pass the bill. No, it's a good question. And here. and we do have, she's never gonna invite me on camera again. No, yeah, I know, I talked about all these exciting things, and they are in the works. We have a target, but it is not passed bills. The governor hasn't signed anything yet. When that happens, we are planning to create, as part of this, there'll be a new office that's gonna lead on some of those things. It's at the Department of Commerce. We may end up having another office at DEED that helps with this as well. So that is kind of like, you ask what we should all be doing here. There is a piece of this that I'm just gonna put on my advocacy hat and say, you also might wanna reach out to your elected officials at the state level and let them know that passing investments in this kind of thing would be really important. I mean, the targets were a good solution, so it hasn't happened yet.
I would just also note that there are state programs today and utility programs today that do fund geothermal, geoexchange systems, the conservation improvement program that looks at reducing energy use because this is an energy efficiency technology as well. So there are some things today. They're not as good as what they're going to be, but there's mechanisms today, and if you're planning for something larger, a lot of folks here that can help with that. But Russ, you were going to mention something.
Yeah, the tax credits are available now, at least as of January 1, if not before that. Although theoretically, for folks like us who want to do that direct pay from the Treasury, they haven't actually set that system up yet. So there's some pieces that are still working themselves out. I will plug though that the Department of Commerce Energy Office has a really good page of information about those federal programs and how they are starting to kind of chew them over and figure them out. You're not alone. I'm very lucky to have recently hired a consultant to help us answer these questions. So,
I was going to say, I'm trying really hard not to just tell everybody to go talk to Pete Wyckoff, but he just raised his hand, so now I'm going to tell everybody to go talk to Pete Wyckoff.
So, my name is Pete Wyckoff.
There you go.
I probably don't need that.
There you go. Let's stay on the front of them.
Hi, everybody. I know a bunch of you. I'm excited to know more of you. My name is Pete Wyckoff. I am, as of Monday, the new Assistant Commissioner of Commerce for Federal and State Energy Initiatives, which is a mouthful, and we are still working to find exactly what that will mean, but I'm very excited to be here. I was Senator Tina Smith's lead on climate and energy for the last 5 years, worked for Senator Franken before that, and was very much involved in the development of the IRA. So I'm very excited to be back in the state to help everybody get all the money here so that we can do all the goals.
Yes! Standing ovation for that.
So, lovely to meet everybody. And I know we have the governor's office here, and we've got Deed here, like a lot of people on the state level are already out here, and all the advocates are here. I'm just excited to be here. Get started. Thanks.
We're gonna get you all the money, Pete.
I may have said almost once a day for the last 2 weeks how excited I am. Pete is back in town. Sean, you had a question?
Oh, yes. So Nina, this question is a bit more for Russ and Kurt here. With trying to empower teams of local advocates working with their community development staff for their city to try to help educate developers about the opportunity, and then once they want to do it, they still have to overcome the financing gaps. So like Dick Gilliard here is with Towerside, and they have the dream team of local advocates who are able to work over a long term with developers trying to come up with financing gaps. Our idea would be to have a meetup once a month with local groups like with Rice Creek Commons, Hillcrest, all the different developments across the metro, so that we could all share ideas back and forth, like who has actually got a project to happen, how do they finance it, so the other people can show that to their developer. But I'm just, I don't know if you have any more tips on, like for the new planning commission in Ardent Hills, where they have a new city council that wants to work on stuff, how they could, well, number one, pass a sustainable building policy, number two, how to help developers not be in the mindset of the old technology.
Thanks, Sean. Very astute points there. I'll give the quick recap of that, which is how do we overcome the burden of bringing developers into this, and especially from a larger planning. There used to be a green infrastructure work group that was working on Rice Creek Commons and Towerside, and I won't, the other one. So, Russ, do you want to speak to that?
I can give it a shot. One of the interesting things that I learned here today was from Horowitz saying that 80% of the projects that they're working on, people are at least looking at ground source systems. That suggests to me that the developers are starting to be keyed in to these opportunities, which is a big change. I had a really interesting conversation with a developer in the last year or two who was like, Russ, look, we all just follow each other around. Like if somebody figures out how to make one of these systems work and we get to look at the numbers and kick the tires, we're all gonna do it. It's not rocket science. It's just that we need a reliable set of numbers to go on about what the costs are for these systems. And it's about to happen, right? With the tax credits that are now available, it's about to happen. And so there's going to be a lot of need for that learning. But it's also there's a tidal wave, I feel like, that's coming, which is really exciting. It's also going to be a really confusing period of time as people are, there's going to be lots of people sort of just continuing to do things the old way because that's how they know how to do it. And honestly, part of my job is trying to avoid that. And so happy to help brainstorm some of those ideas, Sean.
Unfortunately, we're going to have to wrap it up for time, but per the question, we'll make sure that you can get connected to the resources you need and the people you need to answer the rest of your questions. I do just want to maybe end on this point that Russ is saying is that first project is so much harder than people realize. And so, my hat is off to Brian Larson, and he knows he has kept this with me for the rest of my life of how hard we make it for folks to bring technology into being, because nobody wants to be first, everybody wants to be third. And how do we move forward if that's the mindset? And so for the pipe fitters to have brought this project to this building and made it a train, not only like, hey, it works and it's cost effective, we're gonna train from it. My hat is off to them for being the ones to step up and say, we're gonna do this. And then that Carleton College and doing geothermal on their campus, these very real things, so that we can get to the point that we're having a conversation today that's like, we did the samples, we did the pilots, let's go. And I think that, Sean, at the scale you're talking about, sometimes that needs a little bit, but we're hitting that critical mass, and people are seeing it works, and then get over that risk aversion and go. There's still lots of work to do, but if these folks are working on it, and these folks are working on it, I feel like we're in pretty good shape to make some serious change. So We'll wrap up there today. I want to thank the organizers, the folks at BlueGreen Alliance and Fresh Energy and the pipe fitters here, and just an incredible group of folks, an incredible group of panelists. Hopefully you feel like you learned something, you're a little inspired, and take those calls to action. And we should all get to see this district energy trailer at some point in time. So thank you, everyone.